So if your motor is experiencing issues like noises or it's not moving properly as it should, make sure to contact us at customer service so that way we can help you. So we're going to be teaching you on how to remove your rear wheel and removing the clutch from your wheel. So first step is you want to cut the zip ties right here on the motor cable, and then right here is the disconnect. A lot of the mistake that people do is they turn it trying to get it off, but it doesn't seem to move. In this case, you want to grab both sides since they turn on the opposite ends. Once it loosens, then you could be able to pull it out. The next step is to flip up your kickstand. Once your kickstand is flipped up, you can grab your 15/16 socket and then place it inside to loosen it. Once you've loosened it, you can take it out as so. Once you removed your nut and washer, then you're going to be going towards the torque washer right here. The torque washer is going to have a 4mm Allen key to loosen. Once you take this bolt out, then you could remove the torque washer and the lock washer. Make sure to put it in the order that you've taken it out. So once you loosen the wheel on this side as well, what you're going to do is take your hand, pull back on the derailleur, and then you're going to use your other hand and you're going to pull straight up, just like so. Gently lay the derailleur back, grab your chain with one finger, pull it aside, and then now you can remove the rear wheel. You want to make sure that the motor is laid flat with the rotor side facing up. Once it's there, you're going to grab your T25 tool, and then you're going to go ahead and lay it down on one of the bolts. What you want to do is you want to hold it down with one hand and take the other hand and gently pull it counterclockwise to loosen it. From this point forward, what you're going to do is you're going to start with one bolt here and go in a triangle formation. You loosen one here, here, and then here. Once those three are loosened, then you start here, here, and then here. So that way the torque can easily be divided to be loosened. Okay, so now that you removed all of the bolts on the rotor, what you're going to do now is set aside the motor cable, and you're going to pull up on that rotor towards the center. You never want to make contact with the rotor right there with your fingers because it could contaminate brake pads when installed. If you do accidentally touch it, you can always take isopropyl alcohol to clean it to make sure that there's no oil on the rotor itself. Now that we got the rotor off, you're going to take the same T25 and you're going to take off all the bolts on the outer end of the ring here. So you want to do the same thing where you want to loosen one side, skip to the next, and skip to the next, and then loosen the rest of the other ones as well. So that way you could get it even loosening, because loosening one by one will cause these to be too tight to loosen and you could strip the bolt itself. Once you removed the bolts from each side of the outer ring, what you can do is give a slight tap on the floor, and that should cause your motor to slide out. Once slidden out, you can grab it from the axle and the motor cable and lift all the way up. Sometimes the clutch will be attached directly to the motor, but if it does end up inside the motor, don't fear, you can still take it off. So make sure you place the motor aside, because we will come back to that later, and do not lose these little keys. And we'll explain that further in the next steps. The next step is a little bit of a greasy one. It's up to you if you want to put on some gloves for this step. In this case, what you're going to do is you're going to grab your clutch and you're just going to pull up. It should come out just like so. So the next thing is you want to make sure to not lose the axle keys. The axle keys are both located on both sides right here of the axle, so they can easily fall out. So right here, this is your axle key. You have to make sure that that is placed there on both sides before putting the clutch back. If it does not end up having an axle key, when you put the motor back together, it will freely spin on throttle or pedal assist, and it will not be able to spin your wheel. All right, so to install your clutch, make sure that the gears are facing down to engage with the gear in the center. What you're going to be doing is aligning the little indents to where the location of the axle keys are. Once dropped down, align it to the position it needs to be aligned and press down. So now that you have put your clutch on and aligned those axle keys to install it, the next step you want to do is reinstall it on your motor. So the best thing to do is you bring your wheel up on its side, just like so, and then you put inside the motor to avoid the clutch from dropping. Next, what you want to do is once it's inside of the casing, you want to make sure to spin the axle so you can have the gears aligned with the gears in the inside of the motor. Once aligned, you could push back in and realign the holes and reinstall the entire motor back together. A lot of the times when you put it on the floor again, it will slip out just like so. It'll come back out. So what you want to do is you want to make sure to hold it down, grab one of your T25 bolts right here and put it inside and tighten it down as you're holding it. Now that the bolts have been added on, this will hold the motor in place for you to add the rest of the bolts back in without the motor dropping out on you. The next step you want to do is clean up all the grease from the job that was done. So you're going to grab some isopropyl alcohol. You're going to open that, put it on a clean towel. And once you have the alcohol on there, you can go ahead and wipe all the excess grease off of the face of the motor. Now that the motor has been cleaned, now you can install your rotor. Make sure when installing the rotor that you install it face up. And the best way to know this is by the writings on the outside of the rotor. So you want to make sure to follow the arrow in its direction, right there. Once you determine the face of the rotor, you're going to go ahead and slide it through the motor cable, and then you're going to slide it into position, and you're going to put on the bolts on and secure. You want to make sure to put them on in the same triangle pattern as before. Start by putting them on by hand, and once put on by hand, you're going to go ahead and take your T25 and tighten it all the way down. Make sure when you tighten it, do not over tighten. What you want to do is use your hand to hold it down, and with the other hand, you pull it. Once you see that the metal here is bending, that means it's torqued down. Once the bolts have been put on back on the rotor, now you're ready to install your wheel. Before installing the wheel right back on, you want to make sure to have a clean rotor. So you're going to take another brand new rag with rubbing alcohol, and you're going to go ahead and take it like this and rub it all around to clean the rotor for any excess oils, any excess grease that made contact with the rotor. When you install the wheel, you want to make sure that the cable is facing on the outside towards the rear. Once you drop the wheel, make sure that it's aligned with the axle first. You're going to do the same thing reverse. You're going to pull out your chain, put it over the axle, pull your derailleur back, and place it gently on the top, like so. So if the dropout does not align with the axle, you could take an adjustable crescent wrench, adjust it to the area that you need to put it on the flat sides, and just go ahead and wiggle it in place, and it should drop in perfectly like so. Now that the axle's inside of the dropout, what you're going to do is put them in this order. Starting with the lock washer, you're going to place it in there inside so it's flush. The next step is going to be placing this one in there as well. And by hand, you're going to go ahead and put it in, and with that 4mm Allen key, you're going to go ahead and tighten it all the way. Make sure to use the other side for more torque. Once that's installed by hand, you're going to put in the washer in there, and then your nut. If it's not going in smoothly, do not force it. You want to make sure to pull back, spinning the opposite direction, and then from there, by hand, should gently and smoothly go inside. Once secured in position, you want to take your 15/16 and you're going to place it in there, and you're going to tighten it like so. And repeat on the other side. Please keep in mind also, when installing the derailleur side of the axle, you want to make sure to put this guard in position after, and then the washer and nut. Now that your rear wheel is on and secure, you're going to take your motor cable and you're going to reconnect it to this motor cable. You're going to make sure to align it to both arrows, as you can see right there. And once aligned, press in, grab one side of the barrel and the other side of the barrel and twist in the opposite directions. This will tighten the cable so that way it has a secure connection. Make sure to tighten it all the way because an unsecure connection can cause motor issues. Now with your kickstand still up, you want to access this little guy right here, and then you're going to go ahead and zip tie it like so. Make sure that the motor cable is zip tied. This is one of the most important steps that gets missed. If it's not zip tied, it will cause the motor cable to slice based on the rotor's position. So you want to make sure to tighten it all the way down firmly to avoid this from happening. Once that's been secured, you can go ahead and bring down your kickstand and zip tie the other side of the motor cable. What you want to do is slide it in to the frame and zip tie it like so. That way it creates a secure connection and it doesn't rub off of the wheel. Make sure with cutters or scissors to cut off the excess of the zip ties, like so. And that is it.